Welcome to another episode today. So, on this episode, it should be actually my last Cuba video for this trip. I have maybe another short about a homemade spear gun over there, but for full-length videos, this is probably the last one. On this one, I'm not diving the ocean. I'm diving lakes and rivers, and don't expect to see any huge fish. I mean, if you want to see some bigger fish, definitely go to the last video, mixed shots, and you'll probably see some more. In this one, I'm just trying to find a couple of places, like mid-country that, I could dive in and hunt in, and just exploring really. So I do end up with a couple of fish towards the end, but it's definitely different than hunting in the ocean for obvious reasons. So basically, we're checking this lake first. I end up not having too much viz here, and then I move on to a river. And so I'm just basically out there, like I said, hunting and just looking for new areas. So hope you all enjoy. I'm getting set up here. Of course, the viz next to the shore is pretty muddy, but I'm hoping that the clarity will go up as I go towards the center of the lake more. Definitely not the right size gun for diving this type of things, but you can make this work. You basically use your thumb as a trigger finger and you hip fire. You can do it with basically any gun that you can hold the muzzle against your face and use your thumb as your trigger finger instead, so that way you can shoot and still use such a small amount of reach basically on the end of the gun, like it's just the overhang you're shooting with, so you can still hunt in about 2 foot visibility, or a couple inches more than the overhang of the spear shaft. As you can see, it's starting to get slightly clearer, but still not much. I also need to find some structure for the fish to be on. It seems pretty muddy and sandy for the most part. I find a little depth right here, but I have to go down and see. Keep in mind my GoPro picks up more than what I can actually see. Notice that there's not much structure. I see some small fish, but nothing insane, or worth shooting for that matter. There's a structure right here. See what it's made out of. It's an old stump. Try to see if anything comes in on me. You see this guy over here is walking out with his horse, so he's getting ready to clean it. after a good amount of swimming, which this is just a couple clips I picked, put a good amount of time in looking around, but didn't see too much here, so start getting ready to get out. Looks like these guys are trying to move their small boats here. It's always interesting seeing the engines they use out here. Also the ones that arrive back where I live in the Florida Keys. You can see just the ingenuity, like car engines and whatever they can use. Incredible mechanics. I think a couple of these boats had car engines in them. You see they're drifting into me though. The wind's pushing hard, but it's not a big deal. Just dive right underneath. We're back on the road, looking for somewhere else. You can see these caves right here. Incredible. I've seen some crazy caves in like Colombia and Costa Rica and stuff, but man, these are some of the craziest I've ever seen. Incredible topography.
Look in the back first. I didn't even take pictures of it because my stupid phone is gone.
Omar, you should try to plug in for the speed charger.
I pay $180 to fix that.
Omar, try to put the plug in the phone from the 120 volt.
His wife is going to take it to a shop. You know they fix everything here, right?
Yeah.
So I said, por favor, mecánico, teléfono. Mechanic, cell phone. And she's like, oh, I know one. So
I'll take the other one for you, Garrett. He's got it good.
We end up finding this river right here, also thanks to our guide.
Hola. Muchas gracias.
As I get closer, you can see how incredible it looks. The rocks and everything. It's just like a lost natural world right here. It's like something out of the Jurassic era or something. Gotta watch these thorns. You see this catfish right here swim by. Right here.
Oh, the big ass fish right there, dude. There's a big catfish right there.
that point, I was just happy to see something like that. A good sign for sure.
Yeah, you go up there, throw me the soap down. Let's just get it so Some of this. What the fuck? Algae. No, not algae works. I don't know if it's moss though. It might be moss.
Alright, you ready to roll?
No, wait for me or I want to go first.
I'm not gonna tell me why don't you ready?
No, just wait. Give me a second to hunt and just fish right here.
Asking, bro.
I'm filming right now.
See, there's a lot of structure in this river here. Gotta be careful not to kick the bottom up. That way I can have the best clarity possible. But at the same time, I gotta check these ledges. Checking the perimeter first. There's a lot of cracks in these walls here. some dust coming out of this cave, so it makes you think there could be something in there, but you gotta wait till it clears up.
Where'd that fucker go?
To go down the stream.
Yeah, I don't know where he went. It says there's more.
You're gonna have to pedal shadow.
You got a flashlight if you want to go get it. Go get it. It's over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get it. Already saw the trick.
Starting to move a little further down now. A local told me that you could drink from this river, but I mean, the further I got down it, the more I realized I don't think that was true. I made sure to not swallow any of this water. Every time I'd come up for a breath, I'd try and spit, because I've dove some dirty rivers before. Probably even worse than this one was the Savannah River in Georgia. Just real nasty, but got a pretty good sized fish. Actually ended up being a world record in there. So you never know what you'll see in some of these places, but you gotta take some precautions for sure. Making my way further down the river now. Got a little skinnier, but now it dropped off again. I see a catfish right here underneath this catch. So get the right angle. Makes sense there's more downriver like this, where more of the nutrients are caught. I gotta be careful not to kick the bottom up, like I said before. Especially with less flow like this, it'll stay in one place. There's one up here sitting against the roots. Got him. Gotta watch my way out here. Get my flashlight pulled out of my hand. You can get caught really easily. Just gotta be careful. Gotta have a good line management when you deal with stuff like this. Also, if you have a flashlight or something, you always want to have the lanyard loose, so that way, a good example is coming up here. When it gets caught, you can pull it off your hand pretty quick in one motion instead of having it hold you there. You see how dirty it starts getting. Diving the mangroves and the Keys taught me a lot about this when I was younger. It's very similar. Got the fish. It's one part down. I gotta get the spear shaft and the flashlight out now. No, I left my flashlight down there, but I have another one that my friend bring over. I'm gonna try to dive back down and find it. It felt like it got caught on a root, but I couldn't see anything, so it just pulled right off my hand. There it is right there. Got it. So that's one catfish down. That was pretty much where the river gets caught, so I'm gonna move back towards where I started, up the river more. Gotta get through these trunks and roots here. See, it's this carved rock here. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's like another rock fell between it. I have both the Neptonics lights.
Right here.
Yeah, they call these catfish calaria, also known as a walking catfish, for the fact that when their estuaries and rivers dry up, pretty much they'll actually swim over the land, aka walk over the land. So very interesting species.
Right here. Where's it at? Where's it at? Oh, I need one. Here's the other one. Look, I'm taking the fish off. Yeah, there's two bands on it.
Now I'm getting the fish off the shooting line here. One thing about these fish is their head is just all bone, and most of the fish I shoot right away, I can incapacitate them and stab them in the spine or the brain. But these things, I couldn't even get the knife through them. It's pretty wild. But yeah, you'll notice this is a blue water koa, and this is not exactly the correct use for it, but as I said before, you just got to hip fire. The Gulf of Mexico will teach you a lot about doing that. Looking around these roots here. See this one pop up. Got him on the hip fire. This one's bigger too. So when I realized that a lot of them are in the mud, so I'm not seeing them so much. It makes me imagine how many more is actually there.
They hide in the mud. That's why you don't see them. They hide in the mud.
But I'm not exactly going here to commercial spearfish, so I was just hoping to get a bigger one as I go. Not trying to shoot them all. Especially in a small ecosystem like this. It's not like the ocean. There's only so much larger fish that can get in and keep growing. At least until it rains and the water levels rise. Trying to flip away right here. Gotta watch the spikes on these guys. Glove or not, they'll go through you. Just like most catfish, they got a few spikes on them.
Watch out for the spikes.
Yeah, these are good eating fish. Claria, I mean, for freshwater, I mean, just there's saltwater fish are normally, better tasting than a lot of freshwater. I can't say that for everyone, of course, but in my experience. But I was told beforehand that these claria are, favored by some of the locals and everything. I'm hoping to get a bigger one now, so I'm doing a couple more last minute checks in this river. There's one right here, but I pass him up. He's no bigger than the other ones I have. See these little minnows here? I'm trying to crawl up the river. Looks like that's about it, so I'll start making my way out. Gotta watch these thorns and get this gear out of here first. Set this stuff down right here. Got the rest of the gear off that I'm wearing for the most part. It's a thorn plant right here. You can see the river a little better. Crazy looking place. This is the last video in the Cuba series that I had for this trip. I appreciate if you watched all the other ones, between the diving the ocean and just exploring the culture and some of the interesting people I met and all the awesome people that helped make it happen. And also thanks to some of my friends of Cuban descent that have told me stories about nature and some of the incredible parts of the land there. And the sea, of course, and also some of the stories passed down to my dad and me, just through my family, and just happy to have made this trip happen. So thank you all for watching.